Here.
Councilor Campbell here. Councilor Sioma. Present. Councilor Sioma here. Councilor Edwards. Councilor Asabi George.
Present.
Councilor Flaherty.
Here.
Councilor Flynn.
Here.
Councilor Janey.
Present.
Councilor McCarthy. Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Presley.
Present.
Councilor Wu.
Present.
And Councilor Zager.
I'm informed by the clerk that a quorum is present. At this time, did we record Councilor Zakem as being present? Thank you, Councilor Zakem. At this time, I'd like all my colleagues and members and guests to please rise as our lovely clerk comes up to provide an invocation today, and then I will lead the body through the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Councilor. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's verse is called Remembering Our Virtues by Calvin Dame. Spirit of life and love, which moves through us and through all the world. May we this day be grateful for the gift of life which is ours, remembering today and always that the life we have and hold is to us a mystery and precious. May we this day be reminded of the responsibilities we carry, not so that we are intimidated or overwhelmed, but so we may be true to them, so that we may be faithful in carrying them forward. May we this day maintain a sense of perspective, remembering who we are, engaging the tasks at hand, but understanding our limitations, understanding our shortcomings, forgiving ourselves and others if we fall short of perfection. May we this day be inspired, be filled with new breath, and be filled with new enthusiasm. Be ready to see fresh opportunity, new perspectives, unnoticed avenues for action and resolution. And may we this day remember those virtues that bless our lives and bless the lives of others, the virtues of caring and concern, the virtues of honesty and respect, the virtues of charity, industry, and patience. And may the members of the City Council maintain a high sense of their calling. Remember that we are invested here with honor and called to a wider vision of the world, a world made more fair, more just, more equitable by their efforts. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
You're welcome.
At this time, we will move through the approval of the minutes. If there are no corrections to be made, the minutes of the last meeting will stand approved. Seeing and hearing no objection, the minutes of the last meeting are so approved. Reports of public officers and others. Let's read docket 0374 through docket 0379.
Docket number 0374, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Felicia Jacques as a member of the Community Preservation Committee for a term expiring January 1st, 2020. Docket number 0375, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Carol Downs as a member of the Community Preservation Committee for a term expiring January 1st, 2020. Docket number 0376, notice was received for the mayor of the appointment of William Epperson as a member of the Community Preservation Committee for a term expiring January 1st, 2021. Docket number 0377, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of John Sullivan as a member of the Community Preservation Committee for a term expiring January 1st, 2019. Docket number 0378, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Catherine Bennett as a member of the Community Preservation Committee for a term expiring January 1st, 2019. And docket number 0379, notice was received from the mayor of his absence from the city from 11 a.m. on Friday, March 2nd, 2018 until 9:30 p.m. on Thursday, March 8th, 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 0374 through docket 0379 will be placed on file.
Docket number 0380, communication was received from Councilor Michelle Wu regarding the Greenway Business Improvement District petition.
The chair recognizes Councilor Wu, Chair of the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam President. So at our last meeting at the end of February, we had all received in our packets and through the agenda a petition from A Better City on behalf of many of the abutters of the Rose Kennedy Greenway, seeking to initiate the process to start a BID, a Business Improvement District. A BID is a special assessment district in which the property owners vote to initiate, manage, and finance supplemental services or enhancements above and beyond the baseline of services already provided by city or state government. And so, like the downtown Boston bid, it would be an assessment that each of these property owners would automatically have to pay for a period of 5 years. And there's been a negotiation as to how much and who, and discounts for different types of buildings. For example, commercial buildings are at a higher rate than residential buildings, similar to our normal property tax code. So in order to start the process, the proposed bid needed to submit signatures of at least 51% of the property owners represented, or 51% of the assessed valuation represented by the owners, and then at least 60% of the actual number of property owners. They went above and beyond that with 89% of the assessed valuation and 82% of the owners. Our first step here is going to be to take a vote to to authorize the clerk's office to certify those signatures, make sure everything checks out. After that, there's required to be a public hearing. We need to give 30 days notice before the hearing can be scheduled, and the hearing has to be done within 60 days of the initial filing. So it's a little bit of a complicated timeline, but we're holding a date in mid-April for that, so we'll make sure to get that out as soon as the certification is done. So today, I would request, on behalf of the district councilors whose districts are included in this, Councilor Ed Flynn and Councilor Lydia Edwards, that we take this first step of suspending and passing to authorize the clerk's office to certify, and then we'll give notice to the abutters of at least 30 days, have the hearing, and go from there in terms of whether this is a good thing for the city. The bid cannot go into effect unless the city council specifically votes to approve it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Wu, for that lengthy description, but helpful description. I really appreciate it. At this time, Councilor Wu, as Chair of the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation, asks that we suspend and pass and vote on the city clerk starting the process with respect to the Greenway bid. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And docket 0380, that communication will be placed on file, and the clerk's office will begin the process to start the notice of those who live in the community with respect to this petition. Matters recently heard for possible action.
Docket number 0286, message in order to declare surplus the city-owned, formerly Boston Planning and Development Agency-owned parcels of vacant land and transfer to the care, custody, management, and control of said property to the Public Facilities Department. These parcels are located at Condor Street in East Boston District, Ward 1, parcel 033640000. Condor Street in East Boston District 1, Ward 1, parcel 033650000. And Condor Street in East Boston, Ward 1, parcel 033660000.
The chair recognizes Councilor Wu, the Chair of the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation.
Thank you again, Madam President. I'm going to give just a quick summary and then hand it over to the district councilor, who was also at the hearing, to describe it more. But essentially, these three parcels were acquired through Inclusionary Development Program funds, I think back in 2010, and then transferred over to the city under DND, and they've been going through a public process of establishing what housing, affordable housing will go there, affordable and market housing will go there, going back to the community, getting more feedback, and they are now at the point where they have the RFP respondents and are ready to make a designation. They would like to do that designation through the Public Improvement Commission at their March 14th meeting, so we're looking to take a vote on this today. The quick summary is that these are 41 units. They'll be 2/3 affordable and 1/3 market rate. with 8 units of home ownership and 33 units of rentals. The breakdown of what percentage AMI is in the committee report. The project, as most city projects, requires the equivalent of a LEED Silver standard. And we used the opportunity to have some more conversations with D&D representatives about kind of increasing these standards over time, or how our approach to affordable housing has been proceeding. But as committee chair, I would recommend passage of this docket to be able to continue the process of getting the affordable housing up and running. They're planning to designate this to NOAA, the Neighborhood of Affordable Housing, the nonprofit in East Boston. But would defer to Councillor Edwards for a further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wu. Councillor Edwards, you have the floor.
I just wanted to say I fully supported the transfer of this land, and also that we're really excited to see the BPDA working with NOAA, especially to bring about affordable units. I appreciate the hearing and learning a lot more about some of the displacement standards that the BPDA has implemented, and I look forward to hearing more about them in upcoming hearings.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. At this time, Councillor Wu moves for acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket number 0286. Because of the nature of this docket, it requires a roll call vote. So, Mr. Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Councillor Baker. Yes. Councillor Baker, yes. Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Councillor Campbell, yes. Councillor Siomo. Yes. Councillor Siomo, yes. Councillor Edwards. Yes. Councillor Edwards, yes. Councillor Asabi George. Yes. Councillor Asabi George, yes. Councillor Flaherty. Yes. Councillor Flaherty, yes. Councillor Flynn. Yes. Councillor Flynn, yes. Councillor Janey. Yes. Councillor Janey, yes. Councillor McCarthy. Councillor O'Malley. Councillor Presley. Yes. Councillor Presley, yes. Councillor Wu. Yes. Councillor Wu, yes. And Councillor Zachem. Yes. Councillor Zachem, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 0286 has been passed. Mr. Clerk, if we could read dockets 0314 and 0315 together.
Docket 0314, message in order to reduce the fiscal year 18 appropriation for the reserve for collective bargaining by $1,769,878 to provide funding for various departments for the fiscal year 18 increases within the collective bargaining agreements between the City of Boston and SEIU Local 888. Docket number 0315, message in order approving a supplemental appropriation of $1,769,878 for the various departments for fiscal year 18 to cover cost items contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the City of Boston and SEIU Local 888. The terms of the contracts are October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2017, and October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2020. The major provisions of the contracts include base wage increases of 2%, effective the first pay period of January of each fiscal year. The agreements also include other benefits, including new steps beginning in July 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilor Siomo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
I should say Councilor Siomo, Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means.
Thank you. The committee held its hearing on these dockets yesterday. We had Justin Sterrett, Budget Director, and Anne Marie Noonan, the Interim Director of Labor Relations, testifying on behalf of the administration. Docket 0314 would transfer $1,769,878 from the collective bargaining reserve, and docket 0315 appropriates those funds for the agreement between the City of Boston and SEIU Local 888. There are approximately 980 members in this bargaining unit throughout City of Boston departments, including Boston Police, Department of Neighborhood Development, Community Centers, and Elderly Commission. The two consecutive agreements extend from October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2020, with an estimated cost of $12.4 million over that 4-year period. Very consistent with all of the other bargaining agreements that we've heard to date. Language items for this contract include caps on sick leave redemption upon retirement. And during that part of the hearing, Tim McCarthy, who wasn't able to be here, forwarded a question through me, the chair, to ask about the cap is affecting a lot of long-term employees who, when they signed on to work in these departments, were hired under the condition that they could buy back 30% of their unused sick time. And many of them now came to testify yesterday. We had 4 folks, a couple from Elderly Commission, one from the Copy Center, and I think one from BCYF. And there's some substantial dollars that they're losing out on. And, you know, I was a little taken aback by the fact that, you know, changing the rules at the end of the game, let alone in the middle of the game, this is the end of the game for a lot of these folks, 30 and 40-year employees who are losing substantial dollars. So myself and Councilor Baker asked the administration to look in the future in collective bargaining agreements to grandfather those folks in. I don't think it's fair to do that to folks in the last years of their employment. And it's not a substantial amount of people, but again, in all fairness, we think that they should be grandfathered in the future. This current contract, there may be no recourse for these employees, and you know, I suggested that they speak to people in the legal field to see if they do have any recourse. In addition to the language, let me also say, though, we do want to cap those benefits, but, you know, if you're hired under those conditions, that's one thing. If you're trying to impose those conditions after 30 years of what you thought you were going to get at the end is somewhat unfair. Other provisions include entitlement to the city's paid parental leave benefit, clarifications of pay scale rules, transition to electronic pay stubs. Compensation and other cost items include the 2% wage increase effective the first pay period in January of each year of the contract, much like every other bargaining agreement. The addition of new steps on each wage scale will increase by 1% from the existing highest step in July 2018 and 2019, and a new step will be created in July 2020 for the Boston Centers for Youth and Family pay scale that will be a 0.5% increase from the highest step. Elimination of all existing boot and uniform reimbursements and establishment of a new allowance of $250 for all employees except Boston Centers for Youth and Families. A 50-cent hourly increase, per hour increase to the BCYF weekend differential, and an increase in the city's contribution to the SEIU Housing Trust, which provides housing and rental assistance to members living in the city of Boston. And finally, a monthly contribution to the SEIU Prepaid Legal Services Fund. So as chairman, I recommend passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Siomo. At this time, Councilor Siomo recommends that we accept the committee report and pass dockets 0314 and 0315. I will take them separately and ask that we vote first on docket 0314. Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk, if you could call the roll, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilor Baker. Yes. Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Siomo. Yes. Councilor Siomo, yes. Councilor Edwards. Yes. Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George. Yes. Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty. Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn. Yes. Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey. Yes. Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor McCarthy. Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Presley. Yes. Councilor Presley, yes. Councilor Wu. Yes. Councilor Wu, yes. And Councilor Zachem. Yes. Councilor Zachem, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 0314 has been passed. Docket 0315.
Councilor Baker. Yes. Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Siomo. Yes. Councilor Siomo, yes. Councilor Edwards. Yes. Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George. Yes. Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty. Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn? Yes. Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey? Yes. Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor McCarthy? Councilor O'Malley? Councilor Presley? Yes. Councilor Presley, yes. Councilor Wu? Yes. Councilor Wu, yes. Councilor Zakam? Yes. Councilor Zakam, yes.
Thank you. Docket 0315 has been passed. Motions, orders, and resolutions.
Docket number 0381, Councilor Janey offered the following: resolution in support of public sector unions and their ability to advocate for workers.
Councilor Janey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I introduced this resolution because as public officials, we must do more to support working people and working families. I really appreciate the comments of Councilor Siomo and the excellent points that he just made. So union jobs are a pathway to middle class and to opportunity. They fight for safer working conditions, a real living wage, and economic justice for all workers. They fight for affordable health care, good benefits, and they get results that make a real difference. For example, women and people of color in union jobs receive much better pay than their non-union counterparts. Unions work because employees stick together and they unite. Unity is in the name, and it's critical to its success. So it's deeply troubling to me, and should be to all of us, that before the U.S. Supreme Court is a well-funded, politically motivated attack to divide and conquer our unionized public employees. They are painting public sector unions as protecting government bureaucrats and government waste. But in reality, these unions are protecting those who work for our community. Our teachers, our firefighters, our guidance counselors and social workers, our police officers, BCYF workers who care for our youth, elderly commission workers who care for our seniors, and make no mistake, this is an attempt to hurt them, to take away their ability to organize and to unite and to fight. I am proud that we, as a city, that we stand for working families, and I hope that you will all join me today in supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janey. Councilor Presley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to commend the maker and would like to have my name added. This is yet another example of corporate interests, over working people, specifically that of our public sector unions. This is shameful. If the Supreme Court sides with the plaintiff, they will set the entire labor movement back. So there's not much else to say except that I'm proud to be a part of this body where once again we are affirming workers' rights. And again, I commend the maker and wish to have my name added. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Mr. Clerk, if you could add Councilor Presley's name. If you could add also Councilor Zakam, Councilor Wu, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Sabi George, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, as well as the chair. Councilor Janey, do you seek suspension and adoption at this time? Okay. Councilor Janey at this time seeks that the rules be suspended and that docket number 0381 be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0381 has been adopted.
Docket number 0382, Councilors McCarthy and Flynn offered the following: order for a hearing regarding the proposed 13-hospital merger of Care Group Incorporated, parent company of Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and Leahy Health System.
Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council McCarthy and I are calling for a hearing regarding the proposed 13-hospital merger of Care Group, Inc., the parent company of Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and Leahy Health Center. Reports have indicated that, if approved, the merger would be the largest in the history of Massachusetts. Moreover, Beth Israel and Leahy Health would control 1 in 3 hospitals in eastern Massachusetts and become the biggest health provider in the region. In a report that came out on Monday, the Department of Public Health has recommended approval of this merger, while the Health Policy Commission and Attorney General's Office have yet to weigh in on the matter. I'd like to thank Councilor McCarthy for his leadership, for his efforts, and I'm happy to work with him to raise awareness on this issue. Unfortunately, he is unable to be with us today due to travel arrangements, family commitments. that had to be moved on account of the impending storm. However, Councilor McCarthy did release a statement yesterday and said, as city councilors, it is our job to protect and give voice to our most vulnerable constituents. This merger may or may not have a negative effect on our most fragile residents. Therefore, I believe that it is necessary to hear from the experts and those impacted before any decisions are finalized. My focus on this issue stems from significant concerns that we have heard in recent years from state officials, antitrust specialists, and consumer advocates related to potential hospital mergers. At that time, public discussions centered on the impact a potential merger would have in terms of increasing market power, the ability to negotiate with insurance companies, and raising health care spending. Although this matter is under the purview of the Attorney General, the Department of Public Health, and the Health Policy Commission, I believe it is our obligation as elected officials to allow the experts and the public to weigh in and share their concerns as well. It is my hope that this hearing will allow us to learn more about whether this merger would impact other hospitals, as well as local community health centers in the city of Boston. Perhaps this hearing will help us to understand what effect, if any, this merger would have on access to health care for middle and low-income residents, communities of color, our immigrant community, the elderly, the poor, the disabled, and our most vulnerable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Councillor Presley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to commend the makers and wish to have my name added. And I completely agree. We should be sort of a checks and balance. That should be the sort of role that we play with these mergers. And it's opportunity for us to be mindful of what we have seen in the past with these mergers. You know, as a body, we have seen with these previous mergers increased prices, higher premiums, limited access to community doctors, and of course an impact on patients and consumers, especially our most vulnerable communities. I do believe that our hearing and oversight by DPH, the AG's office, and the Health Policy Commission report that is due out this summer will help us in calling for additional protections and holding the hospital accountable. Certainly, from the standpoint of patients and consumers, hospital mergers may offer expanded access to healthcare services, but again, this could come at a cost of higher prices and higher insurance premiums. The other issue I'd like to raise, in addition to concerns for patients and consumers, but is also the workforce. As we've seen in previous mergers, often there are many jobs that are lost in that process, and this is something we do want to guard against, since many of those hospital workers have usually made great sacrifice and have been dedicated members of that workforce, often for decades. And are not often brought along in the midst of a merger. And so this is something that we also want to be sure to keep a close eye on. So again, I commend the makers and wish to have my name added and look forward to an expedited hearing.
Thank you, Councillor Presley. Mr. Clerk, if you could add Councillor Presley's name, Councillor Baker, Councillor Siomo, Councillor Edwards, Councillor Asabi-George, Councillor Flaherty, Councillor Janey, Councillor Wu, Councillor Zakhem, as well as the chair. Docket 0382 will be placed in the Committee on Government Operations. Personnel orders.
Docket number 0383, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Siomo.
Councillor Siomo moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0383. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0383 has been passed.
Docket number 0384, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Zakhem.
Councillor Zakhem moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0384. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0384 has been passed. At this time, I'm informed by the clerk that we have 3 late file matters, which in the absence of objection will be added to the agenda. Hearing and seeing no objections, the late file matters will be added to the agenda. Mr. Clerk, if you could read the first late file matter.
Letter from City Council President. Dear Clerk, pursuant to the City of Boston Code Ordinance Section 20, 6.1 and the Boston Groundwater Trust Declaration of Trust, I hereby appoint the following trustee to the Groundwater Trust, serving as ex officio as a representative of the City Council. City Councilor Ed Flynn. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The first late file matter will be placed on file. Mr. Clerk, if you could read the second late file matter.
Dear Madam President, please be advised that I will be unable to attend the City Council meeting on Wednesday, March 7, 2018. Please read this letter into the record. Sincerely, Matt O'Malley, City Councilor.
The second late file matter will be placed on file. Mr. Clerk, if you could read the third late file matter. Thank you.
Dear Clerk, please be advised that Councilor McCarthy will be absent from the City Council meeting on March 7, 2018. The councilor is out of the city for a family event.
The third late file matter will be placed on file. At this time, anyone wishing to remove a matter from the green sheets may do so at this time. Moving on to the consent agenda. I'm informed by the clerk that we have 2 late file matters which in the absence of objection will be added to the consent agenda. Seeing and hearing no objections, those 2 late file matters will be added. The chair moves for adoption of the consent agenda at this time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The consent agenda has been adopted. At this time, before we move into the list of folks that we will be adjourning the meeting in tribute of, I'd like to first acknowledge Councilor Edwards, who would like to specifically, I believe, speak on one of those tributes.
Today I rise with a heavy heart to remember an incredible activist from East Boston. Gina Scalzioni passed away, and I pray that she rests in power because she did incredible work for our community for decades. She's an immigrant from Italy and was married to her husband, Jack Scalzioni, for 53 years. She's the mother of 4 children, Lisa, Tia, John, and Tanya, who are amazing activists and workers for our community and grew up in East Boston. She was a larger-than-life fixture and took on anybody to fight for East Boston. That included Massport, the Department of Transportation, the Boston Archdiocese, the Vatican, whoever it was. She fought for East Boston. She loved our community and loved Mount Carmel Church and slept in it to keep it going for years after it was slated to be closed. She led efforts to keep East Boston a real community, preventing or moving the location of the 3rd Harbor Tunnel, fought against the airport expansion as a Maverick Street mother, and also delayed the sale of the church that she loved so much. She is a passionate civic leader. She sets the mold for many of us, and I look to her and to many of the women who came before me in East Boston, who fought for East Boston, fought for the community, fought for immigrants, and fought to assure that the economic interest in the expansion of the airport didn't just turn our community into an extended runway. She is a force that we will miss greatly, and I just wanted to highlight her activism as a shining example and to make sure that when we adjourn today, that we never forget amazing people and this amazing woman, Gina Scalzioni.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards.
Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Janey, you have the floor.
I ask unanimous consent to speak, Madam President.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So last week, a dear friend, someone who I've known since high school, passed away suddenly. Chris Beach was a son of Roxbury. He grew up on Devon Street and Charlene Place. He was a scholar athlete in school. He played football at Reading Memorial High School and for the Roxbury YMCA. I spoke with his mom this morning, who talked about his love of sports, football, basketball, soccer. As an adult, his life was not without challenges, and he had several struggles. But what I remember most is that he was funny, he was charming, he was smart, he was generous. He was committed to his family, and he was committed to his community. He worked as a counselor for boys, he worked as an electrician, and most recently, he organized dads in our community and led a support group. And that's what stands out most when I reflect back and think about Chris. It's that he was completely devoted to his 3 daughters, Ayana, Deja, and Natalia. Every time I saw Chris, he was with these girls, and they're now teenagers. So I pray that God comfort them, as well as his parents, Louise Beach and Leonard Beach. And I thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to shine a little light on an unsung hero in Roxbury. And I have this, if the camera would like to pick this up here in view, and I will present this to his family at his wake next week. So thank you.
No, thank you, Councilor Janey. At this time, I would like all of my colleagues and guests to please rise as we adjourn today's meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Edwards, as well as Councilor Sabi George and Councilor Flaherty, Gina Scalcione. For Councilor Edwards, Edwin Al-Waki, Dennis Hurley. For Councilor Janey, Christopher Beach. For Councilor Baker, John Carney. For Councilor Siomo, Virginia Johansson and George Ellis. For Councilor Sabi George, John Gallagher. For Councilor Flaherty, James O'Neill. For the chair, as well as Councilor Presley, Corey McIntyre. For the chair, Reverend Leonard Maxwell. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. The chair moves at this time, when the council adjourns, it does so in memory of those aforementioned individuals. We are scheduled to meet again on Wednesday, March 14th at 12 in this chamber at Boston City Hall. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The council is adjourned.